Lindsay, you gotta hang out with us for a little bit here. I wanted to introduce you to Jane Hampton Cook. She's joining us this morning. She's been on the show before. She's a friend of the show. She's an author. She's a historian and a former White House webmaster. She's written nearly 20 books, guys, and the majority of which have been about American history. She currently lives with her husband and children in Virginia. Her new book, by the way, Lindsay, which you might want to get for Freya, is called Why the 4th of July. It's geared for age 8 and up, but you've got a girl, which means essentially she's 8 and up. And this book shows children why the 4th of July is the nation's birthday and not other important dates in history. Good morning to you, Jane. It's good to have you. Welcome back. Happy 4th of July. Thank you for making the time. As you can tell, we have a lot of fun here.
That's right. Thank you for inviting me and for, this special day. And I was enjoying hearing your conversation about your plans for fireworks and all that kind of stuff. So this is a great day.
What are you guys going to do, by the way, before we kind of dig into why the 4th of July? Because it's all we've been talking about this morning. We've had a whole bunch of historians on before you as well who have been talking about the same thing. We actually talked about Washington's celebration of the 4th in 1778 earlier on. But tell us what you guys are doing today. I mean, you've got a loving family and a great life. So what's happening for you on this wonderful day?
Well, we're going to go see fireworks. We're still debating where we're going to go. We've got a couple ideas in mind. And, we may go hit a car show out in Culpeper, Virginia. My youngest son loves cars, so I think we're leaning in that direction to go there. So,
by the way, cars are much on my mind. My godson was given a Dodge yesterday, and I mean, he was given the awesome sauce. I mean, he was given and he came over to show his grandparents as a good grandson. And I'm like, and I can't think of a young man who deserves it more. What kind of cars does your kids like?
He likes Hondas. He can tell you. He reads U.S. News and World Report. He's 11. And he has memorized a lot of data about cars, so he can tell you. He goes up to people and asks them, "What car do you have?" And then he'll just tell them all about their car. So it's kind of his superpower. So anyway, the only time it's embarrassing is when he tells them how much he knows it costs. So that's the only time it's not good to ask someone about their car.
Actually,
they'll tell you how much they paid for it.
He, by the way, should listen over here because we got a lot of people would appreciate having that knowledge because we got a lot of truck drivers many of them are gearheads who will be absolutely down for what he has to say. Let's talk about this book, by the way. And Brad, who of course is the president of Fastport, is with us this morning, and my co-host Lindsay Lawler has graciously, as you heard, given up her family time as you have to kind of jump in here and join the conversation. We'll have a couple of questions for you, but let's talk about at the core what you are hoping to accomplish, because this book is for kids, and it's a really wonderful kind of addition to any family who is patriotic, a chance to really give them a chance to explain why the 4th of July.
Well, I just wanted to point out, there was an effort a few years ago to reassign the nation's birth to another date, and I wanted to just clearly point out why July 4th is our birthday. And it could have been, the day in the 1500s when America was first put on a map. It could have been when people came here to settle in, at Plymouth or at Jamestown. And so I go through some of those other things, and the pictures have kid versions of the people in the pictures. So the kids are doing the action. But then I show you at the end that it's July 4th because that's the day that we declared independence from England through the Declaration of Independence. And I noticed in the newspapers back then, they didn't even use the phrase United States of America until July 4th. So it was truly the birth, of the country, of a new name. And then there's a big cake at the end, and it talks a little bit about how America's birthday, 250th, is going to be next year.
And that's really kind of fun, too, because it kind of basically sets this up for what's to come. And I want to talk a little bit about the decision to have the kids actually as the principals in the illustrations, because it really gives it a sense, it gives it a feel that what we're looking at is almost one of those when we all were growing up, and by the way, you and Lindsay, of course, are much younger than Brad and I, but when we were all growing up, much, there really is a sense of that pageant that people used to have. I remember in 1976, I was actually old enough to be paraded on stage. By the way, you guys are talking to a guy who actually was third place finisher for the citywide bicentennial art competition of all the parochial schools in New Orleans. Thank you very much.
What'd you do for your art project?
I made a diorama of the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere with shoe
wow.
boxes, and construction paper, and used a 3-color palette. The kids that beat me cheated. I'm just going to say that. No, they didn't. They didn't. Theirs was terrific as well. But you chose to use children in these images. Can you talk a little bit about why, what your decision behind that was?
Well, I really thought it would help children connect to the pictures, to see other children. And in my series, which is called Revolutionary Readers for America's 250th, there are a lot of pictures in the other books in this series of a lot of different types of kids, you know, in terms of physical appearance and different things that they're doing. And so that's why, like, they've got King James, looks like a little boy with a crown on his head. And that's to just try to take what I know is a little bit grown-up material and use it as an engaging tool. I even have a young version of Ben Franklin to talk about him. And so it's in George Washington the same. But the kids do grow up. So that by the end of the book, they are a little bit older. But, you know, I have a picture of John Quincy Adams and his mother Abigail and their role. They played a very important role in the nation's founding because John Adams was a huge proponent of declaring independence. He was there before he got to that point more than a lot of people, faster. He was ready to declare independence a few years earlier than they actually did. But this is just, you know, we've got such a special occasion coming up next year. And there are going to be a lot of opportunities to do different events and activities. And I just want kids to remember this, you know, like you remember the bicentennial. I want it to be memorable. And I just didn't see books in this category on Amazon that were about patriotism, that were about the flag. And so I thought I could fill in and give a need, you know, meet a need, I should say, by this book. And you get a little bit of information about different things, and it culminates in July 4th.
Lindsay, by the way, this is a piece of information you didn't know about me, along with that 1976 gigantic victory of which I was robbed. I also want to point out that the first Scholastic Book Services book I ever bought, Lindsay, was Sam the Minuteman. And I realized that you made me think about that. As I was looking through all this work, I actually thought about that wonderful book about this little boy who actually marches off to Concord in Lexington with his dad, and he's wounded in the first encounter, and then gets his wound taken care of, and then rallies to that. But you're right, I haven't seen a lot of that. Lindsay, do you get a chance with Freya to have? Are there any books like this that you can think of, or is this kind of fills the need for Freya as well to give them a bedtime story about America?
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of this. We haven't personally really gotten there yet, but I was thinking about it, knowing that you're going to be on talking about this book today, and thinking about just watching my daughter this morning. You know, she's 6, by the way. So watching her this morning with the parade and thinking about, and maybe this is a good question for you to answer, you know, how we sort of balance out. I mean, I joke all the time when we watch the shows. I'm like, listen, kids back in the day were fighting war at 12 years old, and we're figuring out if you got enough candy in your bag at the parade today. You know, like joking about that. But, you know, finding those ways to balance history and respect for what we've grown and we've created and nurtured here in our country, while also, you know, being able to evolve and see what's next and celebrate just the joys of being a kid and having fun. So what's your take on balancing, you know, sort of those two perspectives of honor what's come, but also celebrate what's to come?
Well, I think, you know, just presenting some of the basic facts, you know, identifying people. You were talking about Paul Revere. He's in my book. He played an important role. There was a black Minuteman named Peter Salem who fought at the Battle of Concord. And I've talked about his story a lot because people aren't as familiar with him. But I think, you know, when you use story, that's really what people remember, are the stories. We remember the story of Paul Revere and his ride. And then we celebrate, and we have these great pictures of people around a cake or people on the beach with fireworks, children, and that shows you the emotion and the joy of people reacting to the sacrifices that people made, before us. George Washington called us the unborn millions to come, and he wanted, to pass along freedom to each generation. And they chose the colors red, white, and blue have meanings. So red means valor, white means purity and innocence, and then blue means vigilance, perseverance, and justice. And so when I look at the words innocent, I really think I've seen letters from George Washington where he tells his men, you were fighting for the innocent women and children in your lives. And that you know, they were that was very purposeful, that's what they were doing it for. And I think that that's something, you know, to remember, and yet bring it back to, you know, the fun with the candy at the parade. I think that's all important because it helps children understand without being too heavy, you know, and that you don't want it to be too heavy. And like my book, My American Flag, it rhymes, and it's for 6-year-olds. And it rhymes, that it just shows you, oh, I see the flag at the school, at the bus, you know, all around town, and it's a familiarity of there's 13 stripes, there's 50 stars, and each star represents a state. And just those basics, just to help people know what they're seeing, because the flag has outlived us, right? We want that flag to keep enduring after we're gone. And so that's another thing that makes the flag special, is that we're not the only ones who have looked at that flag. It was the people who came before us who have given us this gift.
Yeah,
Let me
and
just ask you this quick follow-up, Jim, if that's okay.
That's
as
okay.
Well. And it was lovely this morning. There were veterans passing out flags for all the kids to hold. So, and my daughter knows she can recite the pledge, and she knows the anthem, and I love those things. And she sees me, her mom, sing the anthem at events. And so, to your point of just making that, without pushing something, just making it a part of their lives. But then my question, so my daughter is adopted, and she's from the Marshall Islands. She's American born, but also has that duality in culture, you know. So I guess just on another a tip for the children that were born here, but then their heritage is from another place, also being able out to balance that and showing you this is what America is really made of, and this is why it's special that we love all and celebrate, but we're here to honor and evolve, right? How do you maybe talk to children that would be of that situation?
Well, the book that I wrote called The Pledge to the Flag, which is it's a level 3 book, I think 2nd or 3rd grade. But that book tells the story of how the influx of immigrants in the late 1800s helped inspire the pledge, because Francis Bellamy realized that there were kids in the schools that didn't know much about America because they had just come here from Italy or somewhere else in Europe, or, you know, all the, you know, Ireland, and that he used the pledge as a way to unite the children, really, because he did a campaign where children across the country in their schools said the Pledge of Allegiance at 9 o'clock in the morning at the same time on a certain date. And that's what launched the Pledge of Allegiance. And in the book, I have pictures of children coming from different places, arriving at Ellis Island, seeing the Statue of Liberty, and that why are people coming? They're coming because we have freedom. They want to experience that, and that we, you know, we still see that. You know, we still see people who want to come, and you know that's part of the fabric of who we are. It's always been that way. You know, there's always been new people coming and making a contribution.
By the way, guys, we're going to run out of time here, so I want to make a little bit of room for Jane to talk about being an on-camera scholar with the new movie, The American Miracle, which you can find at AmericanMiracleMovie.com. Before we let you get back to your family and your friends and your fun, Jane, just give us a little preview and taste of what people can expect if they head over to AmericanMiracleMovie.com.
Well, it's a movie that was in theaters a few weeks ago, but now you can work to get it. You can see it in groups, and you can go on, and it's free, and find out how to do that at AmericanMiracleMovie.com. But it looks at the hand of Providence and the different miracles that took place in our nation's founding. So, for example, on July 4th, 1826, both Thomas Jefferson and John Adams died on the same day, and it was the 50th anniversary of the nation. And there were people who really believed that was providential, that was the hand of God. And so it looks at a lot of that pattern that we see. There was a fog that saved the Continental Army. It just sort of appeared out of nowhere, and it protected them as they retreated. So things like that. And there's scholars, and then there's reenactments. And it'll be streaming in September 8th or 9th. So look out for it. Go look at the fun clips. Kevin Sorbo plays the younger Jefferson. Pat Boone is in this movie. He plays the older Jefferson. And, it was one of the best projects I've ever been a part of. And the filmmakers are great. And sometimes you can't always say that at the end of a long event, long making of something, but this is really special. And we are excited to share it with Americans.
And we are excited to have you on. We got to do some wrap up here and to kind of wish all of our friends out there on the road a happy 4th of July. But Jane, it's good to have you back. Continued success in your future. American Miracle Movie. And of course, you can go to the main action at janecook.com where a lot of that great stuff and a lot of that great content is available. By the way, Lindsay, I think we have a hashtag balance here. Anybody that can give their kids a good time while still encouraging them to basically read trade journals on cars is all right by our listeners. Thank you, Jane.
What it's all about.
Happy 4th of
right there, baby.
Happy 4th of July, Jane. Thank you so much.
4th of July, thank you.